Okay, guys, so just going to get started now. Excuse me, we are talking about eating clean and kind of debunking a little bit of the BS surrounding eating clean. I used to preach it many moons ago. Joe Wicks preaches it amongst many, many other people. However, it's only based on their opinion because there's no scientific evidence to suggest that clean eating has any basis in your diet, or, any reason to be there. And we're going to talk about the ins and outs of what that means. So straight on to the first slide. Here we can see it says we often think of healthy or clean foods as being synonymous with good health, and that clean foods provide a wealth of micronutrition and are the cornerstone of many healthy population diets. However, calorie balance is still absolutely king. And contradictory to some dietary advice, you cannot eat unlimited amounts of food, especially those high in calorie, and expect to remain weight stable, because calories are the most important part of our diet when it comes to maintaining a leaner physique. That's the main. So we're looking back at that nutrition pyramid right at the beginning of this education series, looking at calories as number one, and food quality is absolutely important, but it is not the be all and end all. And it is always better to have a bit of what you want, daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it might be, and so that you don't have a poor association with it, because ultimately it's just an opinion. And in nutrition, opinions don't really matter when it comes to the actual breakdown of nutrition. It's all to do with what's real, what's scientific, and then opinion comes in and how to implement that. So it says calories and eating within our calorie budget are still paramount when it comes to weight loss and long-term health. So that's absolutely everybody. There's nobody who that doesn't apply to. So if you eat 3 biscuits a day, yeah, get all the other boxes ticked, fine. If you eat some strawberry pencils, like I love a strawberry pencil or a pack, yeah, I can still look lean and healthy, sort of. Why? Well, because calories are calories, and ultimately where those carbohydrates come from doesn't actually matter when you break it right down, because they all end up in the same place and at the same. So calories are the most important thing. So healthy eating doesn't, oh dearie me, I'm going to change that right now. Look at that. I never wrote these. Can't cope with that. Doesn't mean weight loss or even health. You can overconsume healthy foods and become obese. And if we know one thing from research, is that being overweight is unhealthy. I can't tell you the amount of people who sign up and go, you know what, I eat healthily. And you're like, okay, that's fine. But what they think is healthy and what actually is healthy are two different things. So you could eat, the amount of people who eat avocado yet are still overweight, because they think that's a healthy food. Well, avocado is really calorie dense for a start, for what it is. It's very easy to overeat. Personally, I think the thing's disgusting. It's very easy to overeat. Yet people will overeat avocado but be petrified to eat a bar of chocolate. It doesn't make sense. So moving on to calories are king and the Twinkie diet. This guy was great. I love this guy. He was a professor. I think he was in Colorado. Why do these slides always do this? Basically, he wanted to sort of debunk. He's a science teacher, and he wanted to. Oh man, really gone to. He wanted to debunk, food quality. Now, I don't know. Do we cover this later on? Is there Morgan Spurlock down here? No, such a shame. Morgan Spurlock did something called Super Size Me, and basically he ate a huge amount of McDonald's in a space of 30 days, and he got so ill. And now everybody thinks that McDonald's is really, really bad for you. And even now their adverts are saying, we don't we use real chicken, 100% real chicken, because people come out with all this rubbish to try and frighten people that McDonald's is bad for you. You shouldn't eat McDonald's with every meal, but if you had one, maybe two a week, and your boxes are all ticked, it's fine. But this guy, Professor Mark, whatever that says, decided to eat a Twinkie diet, and he ate a Twinkie diet, and he put himself in a big calorie deficit. It was actually quite a dramatic calorie deficit. But he was eating healthy before. Healthy, I use put in inverted commas, and then he's stuck in a load of Twinkies, which are basically, they are just very high sugar, high fat, weird American treats. They're rank, actually. I don't get them, but he ate just junk and a bit of other bits and bobs, and he lost 27 pounds in 10 weeks. Whereas Morgan Spurlock gained an absolute bucket ton of weight, and actually loads of his bodily functions just kind of left him. He was super ill. The physicians were telling him he's going to die if he carried on. That was after 30 days, and he gained an unbelievable amount of weight. But people said, it's all to do with he's eating McDonald's. No, he ate in a massive calorie surplus over that 30 days, and that's what people will cherry pick McDonald's. Actually, it was the calorie surplus. If he ate in a calorie deficit from McDonald's, he would have lost weight, and his health markers would have probably gone up. So on the Twinkie diet, he dropped nearly 10% body fat, which is quite a lot. That's a bucket ton. Low density lipoprotein, which is bad cholesterol, that went down by 20%. So even though he just ate junk pretty much, his LDL went down. HDL, which is good cholesterol, went up even though he ate junk. Triglycerides down, so fat or lipids in blood. And this is only one case in considering impact of consuming this type of diet long term is unknown. Oh, dearie me, I didn't write these slides. Let's do that on the fly. I couldn't sleep if I left that. So are we saying that food quality doesn't matter? No, of course we're not, because food quality does matter. So, contentious name who's just made a return back to the nutrition world, but a very clever man, has basically said this is how he is basically the god of nutrition, but pretty much in terms of nutritional science and knowledge. Most people look at some floppy-haired hip enthusiast. We look at a man who has been done for, or has been sort of, smacked down a little bit recently from some actions that he did at a seminar. But anyway, he's come out and he years ago, and basically this is how you set up a diet. So in the black here, whole and minimally processed foods that you love the taste of. That should be the large part of your diet. So on a daily, weekly basis, that should be the large part of your diet. So single ingredient whole foods. And then you get whole and minimally processed foods that are neutral to your taste, 10%. Questionable semi-junk food that you love the taste of, and then blatant junk food that you love the taste of, 10%, 10%, 10%. And that's a really good way, a really good thing or sort of way to live and have nutrition, because it means you can have that flexibility with family, friends, etc., but it also gives you the opportunity to, I mean, this can be like in here, in this bit, you can be looking at your packet sauces, your processed sauces and stuff, which people go, oh, it's sugar, it's really bad for you. Yeah, okay, well, it is pre-made, but it isn't really bad for you. And actually, if you think of a meal, if you look at that as a meal and how it's comprised, if this was chicken, rice, which I would class in that, vegetables, etc., and then here you're talking 10, 15% is, or even 90% of your meal is that, and then 10, 15% is a green dragon stir fry sauce, which is just, it's got some sweeteners in there, and that's about it really. Then you're good, but people don't look at it that way. So how can food quality impact your diet? So fiber, it can improve your digestion, so it slows gut motility, or improves it, should I say. So it improves how food goes to waste, but it obviously improves. So the poorer quality of your diet, the less fiber you have in your diet. That said, you can't have too much, but the less quality you have in your diet, the worse your poo is going to be. So Gillian McKee, for whatever her name was, she would have a field day with you. Volume fills your stomach, so good, better quality food, especially when dieting, will help you maintain your diet for longer because you're going to be fuller for longer. It helps with satiety, so junk food is not very satiating. But, you know, if you've been dieting, or if you're dieting over the course of a week, a bit of this, it can break that monotony of the diet, and also feels less restrictive and therefore stops people binging. So that's why we absolutely encourage having a bit of what you want. But it's not very filling, so you shouldn't really be looking at that as your main parts of your diet, which is why when people eat so poorly, for the most part, they struggle long term because, you know, they're not prepared to make the changes, but actually it's massively hindering them. So micronutrients, health, so vitamins, minerals, they're all featured very highly in your vegetables and fruit. So obviously they're quite important because we don't want to have diseases as we get older. At least I don't think we do. Obviously calcium and things like that help with the ossification of bones. So we want to make sure that, you know, that protects us later in life as we get older against things like osteoporosis and other bone density things and diseases, etc. Yada, yada, yada. That's just a few hand cherry-picked stuff off the top of my head, but obviously micronutrients are very important and massively overlooked. So clean foods, again, single ingredient whole foods, are often high in volume, low in calorie. Not too bad. Always something every single week. I'm just going to get used to it now. So clean foods are often high in volume, low in calories, and full of micronutrients. So you also don't absorb the same number of calories. Therefore, food quality is indirectly very important when dieting. I'm mad about this. So that is clean eating, and I think we can move on. Does anybody have any questions about clean eating before we move on to macronutrients? Any at all? I will hold that open. Has anybody got any preconceived ideas about what we've just discussed there? So obviously we've said that you don't have to eat clean to get in shape, and actually it can be quite detrimental to long-term results. So any questions at all? Fine. Okay, let's move on. So macronutrients. So what are macronutrients? Macro means the big nutrients. So these are the building blocks of your diet. So you've got protein, fats, carbs, fiber, and alcohol, which is the fourth macronutrient. And we're going to move on and talk about protein to begin, because protein is one which a lot of people are very reluctant to improve because they obviously feel like either it's expensive or they struggle to get it in there because of, you know, they find it, well, they just find it, oh, I'm too full or something. So let's talk about the benefits of protein and the ins and outs of it. So protein, it provides 4 calories per gram. So if you're having 100 grams, that's 400 calories. So they are made of building blocks called amino acids. Something to discuss there, anybody who wonders of what branched chain amino acids are, and anybody who takes it as a supplement, don't bother, just get your protein intake high enough. Proteins form the building blocks for muscles, teeth, skin, and bone. So any of the ladies struggle and want stronger nails and hair and all that kind of stuff, it's all made of proteins. You know, hair's made of keratin, that's a protein. Skin is made of collagen, amongst other things. That is a protein. Adequate protein means stronger, better, last longer, etc., etc. They're also used to form enzymes which help with general health and digestion, again, and the prevention of disease, gut bacteria, and all this kind of stuff. It's all quite important. So the current recommended daily allowance is 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. So this is 100 kilograms, mate. 100 kilogram male. So this is recommended for the minimum recommended allowance for 100 kilogram male. So I'm just under 100 kilograms, very, very much just under. But it's 80 grams of protein. And this is low because it's what prevents disease. So therefore doesn't mean optimal. So 1.6 to 2 kilograms, 2 grams per kilogram might be a better place for those of you training hard. So I have probably around about 220. So 2.2 kilos or 1 gram per pound or 0.8 grams per pound is probably going to tick that box. I normally recommend up to 1 gram. And actually, because protein's so filling, I obviously make sure that people get that in there. It is always a tough sell at the beginning, though. The benefits are healthy skin and hair, as we said earlier on. Improved weight loss. Nearly every nutrition study can be founded by non-matched protein. Increased satiety, it keeps you fuller for longer. So that's quite beneficial, especially those people who struggle with weight loss. Okay, increase energy to digest, the thermic effect of food. This improves, basically it's almost like a cheat food to fat loss. Muscle retention, toning, and metabolism. So having these, well, basically, when we're dieting, we want to retain as much muscle as we possibly can. That's the goal. If you look at a very extreme person, like a bodybuilder, you build their muscles up to get themselves as lean as possible to look as muscular on stage as well as lean. So we want to maintain that leanness. And that really applies to Sue from Accounts as well. So Sue from Accounts wants to lose weight, but she also wants to look toned, lean. She doesn't want to look floppy and saggy. So therefore, adequate protein is required alongside some resistance training. It helps with immune function, so quite important. That comes down to that enzymatic processes again, and recovery from training. So you don't want to be sore, etc. You want to feel good and ready to go with training. So adequate protein is necessary, and it's an absolute, you can see there's a no-brainer. We all should be having adequate protein. So, won't too much protein hurt my kidneys? Lol. Unless your kidney's about ready to fall out of your asshole, no, is the answer. Moderate changes in dietary protein intake cause adaptive alterations in renal size and function without indication of adverse effects. I was talking about the kidneys again, gang. So it's all about making sure that your kidneys, etc., adapt to increased protein intake. It appears that protein intake under 2.8 grams per kilo does not impair renal function in well-trained athletes. In resistance trained men that consumed a high protein diet for 1 year, there were no harmful effects on measures of blood lipids as well as liver and kidney function. So, yeah, it's fine. Unless you've got a pre-diagnosed condition, which you'd know about if you did. So protein take-homes. Most people don't actually eat enough, which is why we would bang on about it. Increased protein keeps you fuller, helps you recover, builds muscle, burns calories. Shoot for 3 to 5 20 to 30 gram servings per day or 2 goals, depending on body mass, total body mass. So we'll move on to fats in a moment. If you've got any questions on protein, we might as well cover it. Must have some questions. Don't be afraid to ask, guys. Fine, we'll move on. Why is that happening? Oh man, I give up sometimes. Anyway, what is that? Anyway, okay, functions of fat. So basically, it is a large amount of energy in a gram. So this is where people can massively over consume. But ultimately, the function of fats: 9 calories per gram. It helps with insulation or your brown fat. You did 2 different types of fat, brown fat and white fat in your body. It helps with immune function. Your sex hormones: testosterone, estrogen, mood, libido, body comp. So we kind of need them. So low fat diets are not very good for you. They are fat. Some vitamins, such as vitamin D, are fat soluble. Therefore, what that means is they require fat to get across the wall of the stomach or the intestines, depending on where they're absorbed. And therefore, we need them. God knows how these little pink things have got here, so sorry about that. They taste good, and they increase satiety or fullness. So via a process to do with gastric emptying, they basically send a signal to your brain via your stomach to say, you've eaten fat, so we're going to keep that food in your stomach. So really, we want to be 0.5 to 1.2 grams per kilogram, or at least 20% of your daily calorie intake. So that is the recommendations. So it could be anywhere for a 70 kilogram female, 35 to 84 grams per day. You can go lower for short periods of time, but it's not recommended. And I've never really dropped below that 20%. Have done with a few guys, but with girls, I tend not to bother. Some are essential in the diet, others are not. So saturated fats come in red meat, cheese, dairy. Where they're just disappearing now. Saturated fat comes in those red meat, cheese, dairy. Wow. Dairy, coconut oil, mono unsaturated comes in avocado, olive oil, almonds. So you can see that list there. So you want to aim for a good mix of the 3. So you don't want to be omitting any. There's a lot of people who say these are bad, these are good. Actually, you want a good balance of them all. So yeah, good times. Do you have to eat more fat to burn more fat? When you eat more fat, you burn more dietary fat. If you burn more body fat, it will depend if you're in a calorie deficit or surplus. So ultimately, eating more fat in a calorie surplus will mean you gain fat. If you eat fat in a calorie deficit, you'll lose fat. That's it. You don't need to looking at things like that, like going this ketogenic. Everyone's got on the keto bandwagon at the moment. It's crazy. So the take home with fats, they play a number of vital roles in the body, so they're really important. So therefore, we shouldn't go too low on them. They are, however, very energy dense, 9 calories per gram. So that you need to be aware of them. And very low intake should be avoided. Aim for a balanced or varied fat intake. Don't restrict fat groups, not unless you've been given a medical reason to do so. It's not the bad guy we thought it once was, but we're harking back to the 1980s for that kind of stuff. They are important. Any questions on fats, gang? We have a question. Finally. If it's a question about how bad the presentation is, don't tell me. Yes. Typing is slow, 2 secs. Any questions at all, guys? Okay, fine. Let's move on to cut. Okay. Are any individuals likely to store more dietary fat as fat than carbohydrates? Don't know. I'll have to find out, mate. But yeah, I'm not really sure what you mean. You can only store fat if you're in a calorie surplus. So you can't store fat if you're in a deficit. It's not possible. I'm going to move on to carbohydrates, guys. So, the sweet truth about carbohydrates. God, who's that? God, so dreamy. Definitely look, I'm definitely going to get arrested at some point. So, carbohydrates. So, I love carbs because they are demonized and they should not be. It's crazy. All carbs end up the same anyway, which is hilarious when you think about it. But basically, they provide 4 calories per gram, which is the same as protein. They help with digestion from dietary fiber, so they're a good thing. They help provide volume to the diet, which is obviously a good thing if we're trying to, which psychologically and physiologically can be really beneficial. They aid sleep. So carbs at night help you sleep. Nothing like a bag of Haribo before you go to bed. Fuel of the brain. Glucose is your preferred source of fuel for the brain, so no brainer. They are non-essential. We can make them from fat and protein if we need to. And we can store it in our muscles from exercise and liver blood sugar. So we can store it as glycogen. And that is a good thing, especially those of you who do any form of exercise. Simple versus complex carbohydrates. Simple single molecules equals faster digesting. Complex links of carbohydrates together, starch, glycogen equals slower. This doesn't really give us the full picture. You know, the glycemic index is not really a very good indicator of what is, you know, how these foods release into your body, because obviously we don't eat them on their own very often. So I'll look at that question later. So needs will differ hugely from individual to individual. Body weight, training volume, hours intensity training, type of training, goal, performance, fat loss, etc. Performance 3 to 10 grams. So we talk about carb loading, etc., where we're trying to do an endurance event, for example. Then, therefore, you know, if you're trying to do something which is 60 minutes or longer, then we need to account for that. But then you've also got fat loss, muscle gain as well. So, you know, really depends. You can kind of play around with that, but they should not be omitted. They should be included because they are awesome. It's very, very hard to convert carbohydrates to fat. Dun, dun, dun. If you eat more carbs, you burn more carbs, but then you also store more dietary fat. So, as always, it comes down to calorie balance. The more active you are, the more carbohydrates you need. Now, I can see on the list a few people there that should hit home really hard to, because the requirement of carbohydrates and calories is important. We often think we're special snowflakes, I think. Oh, look at the next one. Sugars, I can see it in the corner of my eye. Look how big that bugger is. It's going to be a good one, but you're going to have to wait until next week. Okay, so the take home of, let's summarize carbohydrate. Needs will differ hugely from individual to individual. So why am I only having 1,300 calories and that person's having 1,500 calories? Yeah, you're different. Same with carbohydrates. They're not essential for living, but essential optimal for performance. So you want to get stronger, you want to get fitter, you want to feel better. They're really good for the brain. You want to have better cognitive function, productivity at work, etc., etc. Carbohydrates. They're not inherently fattening. However, we do have a tendency to overeat them when we are inactive. And sugar is in foods that are easy to overeat, but is not in itself. Deary me. In itself bad, and we will cover sugar next. So, questions. Dan, can you see my message? I can see your exact PC screen. Yeah, I know. I just do it like that because it's easier to. I do it like that so I can quickly, because my laptop's playing silly buggers, basically. So thank you. Questions about nutrition, guys? Come on. Oh, wow. Anyone at all? We must have at least one question about nutrition, fat, protein, carbohydrates. Come on. Clean eating. Your favorite high volume. Your favorite high volume, relatively low calorie meal. Oh my God. Oh, yeah. Man, I don't even cook. Like, I haven't cooked for ages. I'll come back to you on that one. I haven't got a bloody clue. What is better for you, red meat or chicken? Yeah, you definitely want to be eating red meat all the time. And actually, chicken breast is a much leaner cut of meat for the most part. So you don't want to be eating red meat, all day, every day. Chicken is going to be a lot better of a choice. So yes, overall, but you can absolutely have red meat. And the science is a little bit unclear at the moment, but for the most part, you can have red meat. I think I have about 12 portions of red meat a week, and I have at least 20 portions of chicken a week, at least. Kate, so as long as we're on a consistent calorie deficit, we will definitely use fat. Absolutely, Kate. There is literally no other there is no other way. Are prawns high in cholesterol? So, Kate, answering your question, because I got a bit distracted there. Yes, the only way to lose body fat is to be in a consistent calorie deficit. Rather than everybody's so black and white with their thinking, they think that they need to eat rabbit food. You don't. You do need to eat healthily. But absolutely, you do need to be in a regular, consistent calorie deficit. There is no other way. That is the only way. Are prawns high in cholesterol? It doesn't matter, Liz, if you have got all your other boxes ticked. I may have not done the right thing, but I haven't really been taking any notice of my macros. Is that okay? Well, it depends, Kate, to be honest, because if you don't need to eat, you don't need to pay attention to your. It depends. I think it's a good way to learn how things make you feel. Adequate protein intake obviously is going to make a huge difference to what the visual differences. Oh, wow, the questions are coming in quickly now. Better get Becky to get me another beer. Becky, get me another beer. No, I do think it's important to get notice of your macros because they massive. So if you have a really high carb day one day, it's going to impact how you feel the next day, depending on what, on many different things. But it's important to kind of get your protein consistent daily. And it's important to get your fat consistent daily, and then the carbs kind of slot in. And once you've got that, you'll find that you're fuller for longer and all that kind of stuff. So rather than the little, you're stressing out about, calories are always number one, but the rest of them, I would say, I do think it's good to get them in check at the beginning, but don't stress about it. That's the thing. Everybody stresses about it, and it's pointless. Just work towards getting better at stuff, and that is nutrition and fitness in a nutshell, really. I get really confused with protein bars. Is there a set ratio calories per protein? I have absolutely no idea what that means because they're all so different. Does it have enough protein in it? Does it take care of your calories? Protein bars, should we be focused on protein bars or having more general protein during the day? as a meals, I'm not really sure of the context. Do you believe in intuitive eating? Yes, that's where we should be all working towards. That should be the end goal. I eat intuitively, always. I always choose something with high protein in, unless it's a cheese and ham sandwich. Um, but you should all be working towards that goal. So long as in a calorie deficit, it doesn't matter whether you choose white versus whole wheat bread or pasta, for example. No, it doesn't. In terms of quality, there are some slight differences. Some have slightly more fiber in, but you can bulk out that meal with more vegetables, for example. So it's kind of missing the point, really. Like, for example, if you have a whole wheat slice of toast compared with a whole grain slice of toast, you're talking 60 calories different. So that's where that's kind of missing the point. In the Mediterranean countries, they tend to eat a scary amount of fat. Yeah, you're damn right. Is this due to the fact their diet is really high in veg with a minimum amount of meat? I think it's a culmination of it's seen to be healthy, but actually it's not their diet that's healthy per se. It's that their lifestyle's healthy. They don't binge drink. I mean, I remember I was over there and I was like, oh yeah, I really struggle because I'm sitting here drinking 3 cans of beer whilst we're having a chat on a nutrition webinar. But ultimately, they'll go and have like 2 glasses of wine and then eat slowly, and everything. Food is such a social thing for them. Whereas for us, we don't, they eat out all the time. Like on a Tuesday, they'll just go and sit in a restaurant and stuff. And we don't do that because we don't have the weather or friends, etc. So it's just very, very different. Yeah. I mean, we see that they eat a lot of fats, oils, like oils and cheese, but they eat that when they're out. What do they eat at home? We don't know. Is it because we're miserable bastards? I think so, mate. It's flipping freezing here, and nobody as soon as it's a little bit sunny, everybody complains. Whereas over there, it's, do you know what I mean? The heat, the vitamin D, they have such, they've got such. It's just such a different way, isn't it? So, I mean, we know the science behind vitamin D and how much that can help. They sleep. They focus heavily on their sleep. They used to sleep during the day. Everything's also, you got to look at that. Yes, they are seen to be healthy in terms of their diet, but when you look at their life, we are 3,000 miles an hour. We're on trains. We're commuting. We're doing this. I remember getting a train from. I was going to Malaga from my parents' house where they bought a place in Spain years and years ago. And it was commuting with people and everybody was just in their jeans, just chilled, nobody looked stressed. Whereas commuting into London, everybody just looked like they wanted to murder people. So we're just, and I'm super stressed all the time. So yeah, their diet appears to be healthy, but it's because the rest of their stuff isn't. And loads of fish as well. God, but they eat loads of fish, don't they? And it's just real different. Their lifestyles, it's not just their diet that's healthy, it's their lifestyle's so different. It's a lot more chilled, less stressed in many ways. They just don't do stress, whereas that's what we seem to thrive on or seem to live by. Any other questions, gang? Happy to answer for a few more minutes. First day of autumn, the temperature dropped by 10. Yeah, telling me, mate, my little tiny calves have shrunk even smaller, I think. Know the feeling. There must be some more questions here. Give it another minute or so. If you haven't got any more for me, then that's okay. Kate says C. I can only say, is that a C? As in, I could do better and I've got a long way to go before I get a B. Jay says, what are good protein breakfasts? You can't really go wrong with an egg-based breakfast. So this is what I do. So again, you've got to be careful because You know, you got to remember, whatever I eat, I'm nearly 100 kilograms and I have an active job. So I'm going to have a lot more to play with, calories wise, than somebody who's sat on their bums all day. And you've got to, this is where you've got to sort of play around with things. But my breakfast of choice, here's what I had for breakfast this morning. I had 2 slices of toast, I had pretty much a tin of Branston baked beans, 2 eggs, and 3 low-fat turkey sausages. There's probably around about 40 grams of protein in that, bucket load of carbs, and a fair whack of fat from 3 eggs and a bit of oil. And I can get away with that because, I mean, that's probably, I don't know, at 850, 900 calorie breakfast. And I had another 4 or 5 meals after that. So, yes, it seems, oh, yeah, well, Dan's having that. But then you've got to remember, I'm probably getting away with about 3,500 calories a day. My favorite breakfast if I'm trying to lose body fat is I will get some pre-done chicken breast, like sliced chicken breast. It's I probably put around about, I don't know, let's just hypothetically say 100 grams of that. So I get 3 eggs, I get a load of chopped veg, loads of chopped veg, even veg I don't even like mushrooms, because it's tasteless if you chop it up finely enough and put some bits with it. Peppers, onions, what else? Bit of garlic, 3 eggs, pan fry that all for a bit, stick a bit of chicken in there, done. And I have that. And that is I don't know, it's like smashed eggs, but it's pretty tasty. As long as I put sauce in it or season it, I have that. Kate said, what other high protein breakfast? Whey with porridge oats is a really good one. It's a really easy option. Very, very, very high in fiber, and it's not very calorie dense, and you can whack a banana in it. If you put it with boiling hot water, it's pretty nice. I like it, and I'm a real fussy bugger. So yeah, that's another good option. I'm very limited on what I have because I'm just not a very good cook. So I just don't. I have all my breakfasts pretty much the same. So yeah, things like oily fish are not a great breakfast choice. How do we work out what our fat macros are? I'm aiming for more protein, but unsure of fat goal. So very, very straightforward. So let's say I'm 217 pounds, Kate. So 217 pounds in the calculator times by 0.3. Okay, that is your fat goal. 65 for me. So it's 0.3 grams per pound. So 217 is my weight. I'm going to multiply that by 0.3, and that is my fat goal. That's my minimum fat goal. And then you want to be somewhere between there and 217. So I'm 217 pounds. 217 times 0.6. That's my top end fat for health. 0.3, 0.6. Do you not track veg in a fat loss phase then by that breakfast? Ed, I don't really track, no, but because I eat intuitively, we go on portion sizes. I know that I can walk more. I can cycle a little bit more. I cannot buy a bit of junk. So, yeah, although that said, I'm not doing very well at fat loss at the moment, so maybe I could. That seems easy to work out. Okay, so just remember, Kate, that you do have a coach, and he is sat right here, and on your check-in, you can ask him. It's that straightforward. But you do need a minimum amount of fat for health. So, good question. You don't really need to work out anything, Kate. That's what you've got to remember. Nobody really needs to work out anything. You've all got us here to answer your questions. So, feel free to ask. Any more for any more, gang? It's been 46 minutes. Yeah, wear notes is a good one. I love a bit of wear notes. It's easy. It's easy. It's versatile. You can have it wherever. It only requires a bit of hot water. Pretty straightforward. Absolutely, Ed, yeah. And if you chop up, I love a bit of chopped banana in mine. You chop up a bit of banana and stick it in that, mate. It makes a big difference. It sounds so silly and trivial, but these little tweaks and stuff make a huge difference. No courgette in anything, mate. Courgette is absolutely horrifying. Don't get it. But if you like, if you like I just can't get on with the texture of it. I think it's horrible stuff. But if you like it, bugger all calories, very filling. Any other questions, gang? Because if not, I'm going to wrap it up. Don't hide away. I'm still here. So if you want some questions answered, just ask away. Okie dokie. Great webinar. Thanks, Liz. I think you missed the fair whack about you at the beginning, which is a shame. Cool. Okay, gang. We'll leave it there. Thanks very much for watching, and we will catch up with you later.